All righty, we are live. So, welcome everyone to the fifth edition of Commercial Obsession. I am absolutely ecstatic to have Lovell here with us from PM Hospitality. And so, we're going to dive into all things commercial strategy, evolution of commercial, implementation of commercial, and all of those other fun pieces. Going to do just a real quick housekeeping for everybody. We're going to have a little conversation for about 20 minutes. And then after that, go through any questions that you may have. So if you do have any questions, feel free to go ahead and put those into the chat. We will start going through those about 10 minutes before the half-hour mark is up. So with that, Lovell, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It was awesome to see you last week at HTC. So, this is awesome.
This is a blast. And also just like a fun side note. So PM, who had acquired Modus Hotels, is actually my first introduction into the hospitality industry too. So I just have a special place with your company in my heart. So
you're fondly remembered over here by the Modus team. I can promise you.
You are so kind. You're so kind. Well, I would love to do just an initial kickoff. And I know a lot of people, we know you very well, but just do a little kind of background bio and kind of where you came up in the industry. And
it started when I was 12. No. So I have literally been in the hospitality industry for more than 30 years. I have always been on the commercial strategy side. It was, I have never worked a day in operations until we experienced COVID. And I thought it would be a good idea to support the sales teams that were stripping beds and working in housekeeping. And I had the intention of working a half a day in housekeeping. I lasted about an hour and 45 minutes. And the poor housekeeper that was I was shadowing her, looked so relieved when I said, I think I'm done. It was the hardest work I've ever done. But God bless those housekeepers, because we sure do need them. But no, I have been in hospitality sales for almost my entire career. I took a sabbatical in the 90s and worked in my dad's organization, his ministry, but I like to say that the hospitality industry just keeps pulling me back in. So been with PM now, I'm going on 6 years, and started with them in 2019, and just have had a great ride with PM Hotel Group in spite of some of the challenges we went through. It's a great team over here, so very happy to be here.
That's awesome. That's great. Thank you. And so just so everyone knows, we kind of cheated. We were just going before the call even started today, because we love this stuff. And one of the things that we've really been, I think, honing in on is the difference of what we thought it would be like and what it actually is. And what's interesting is we look in the commercial space, you have people coming up from revenue, from sales, sometimes from marketing. I don't know if I've actually interviewed anyone that's come up from marketing. It's usually sales and marketing. It used to be in one discipline. But with your background, can you talk a little bit about that evolution into more of a commercial space from the really more of a sales focus?
So I came up in the sales side, and I actually started in the banquet and catering side. My first director position in a hotel was the director of catering. And fun fact, I spent 15 years on the banquet and catering side, and very few years on the room side before I made my transition to an above property role. So and we were joking about this, but literally, back in the day when I was in catering for the first time, you were still doing things in the big black book, and somebody had to be responsible for taking it out of the building if there was a fire alarm, and that would be me. I would always be standing there hugging the book, but technology, when we started having all this wonderful technology that we have, and it just continues to evolve in technology, is really when the changes started coming in, and we radically changed the way that we did things in the hotel industry. The internet itself, like it just all of that. So I have seen that evolution, and I will say I've also seen people that didn't keep up with the technology or didn't embrace the technology. And most of those people have probably not in the industry anymore, because if you're not changing, you're not growing, right? So it's really evolved into a very technology based process within the commercial strategy. And I want to comment on what you said about the marketing. Back in the day, you were the director of sales and marketing, and the social media and digital marketing really changed that. I mean, at PM Hotel Group, we have area marketing managers that specialize in the social media, the digital marketing. It's a good thing they don't have me doing it, because it wouldn't look as awesome as it does. But yeah, so it's just been the technology just really caused a lot of change for us in a very good way. Can't wait to see what AI does.
I know that's going to be so interesting. And yeah, and on that marketing piece too, I was actually having a conversation with somebody about this at HDC. I could go to college and get a master's in marketing today, and 2 years from now, that knowledge, that information that I got, it's already changed. And it's that discipline is such an ongoing evolution, to be able to stay up to date with that and understand how to be, most effective and efficient there. That in itself is a full-time job. And we were talking about, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and that's the area that is really going, and you're already seeing AI come to life in the marketing area, right? And that's probably the first kind of department within the discipline of commercial strategy that has the ability to embrace that. And I think it was when I was at HSMAI, they had several people speaking on AI and talking about how is there the ability to eliminate positions, and marketing was one of them that was potentially at risk. I personally don't think so, because I think you still have to understand what the strategy needs to be to put the marketing against that, and someone has to make that connection, and then the content and the study of the demographics could come from the AI piece.
That's a really important note, and that gets brought up frequently at these different conferences. Is AI going to replace jobs? And I think the common consensus is it's not going to replace jobs; it's going to redefine them, and it's not going to take your job. However, somebody who understands how to use AI will take your job.
Yeah.
So it's, I look at revenue management. Really, back in the day, it was more of channel management, when you have to go through and manage your inventory on each one of the different channels. And then we had channel managers. We don't do that anymore. So technology continues to evolve our disciplines and how we do things. And with that, we had an interesting discussion about, in going back to marketing and how much that changes on a regular basis. On commercial, your job isn't to be the know-all, the one who knows all things when it comes to any one of those disciplines, right?
Yes.
It's
thankfully.
Yeah, exactly. But to be the most effective and efficient commercial leader, it's a very different skill set. So do you want to talk a little bit about that, and where you're seeing the best leaders in commercial coming from? What do those attributes look like?
I do. I think so. It's actually, we're evolving in that. And I've heard experts like, Lori Kill and Kimberly Furlong speak on this at some conferences recently, or in the last year that I attended. So when I was coming up, the director of sales was the person that got tapped when you wanted to put them into a regional role above the properties and things. And I said to you before we started, I said, if I were coming up today, I would probably be reporting to an SVP or a chief commercial officer that came up through the ranks of revenue management. And going back to the technology piece, the technology and the systems is where you need the expertise. So I am surviving up here at leading the commercial strategy team for PM Hotel Group because I understand that I don't have the expertise in all of these facets of driving top line revenue these days. I make sure I surround myself with people who do have expertise. And even in the systems, Hilton doesn't have a system like Marriott has, and Marriott doesn't have a system like IHG has. So it gets very granular. You have to have people that are not only able to get into a system and understand how to maximize the system. You have to have brand experts. I mean, fortunately, half the people at PM Hotel Group that are on my team have worked with me in other lives and in my past life when, I was with other companies, and they're just the best. And so my job every day is basically to support them, to be a problem solver. Every time I get the phone call and I have to solve a problem, I remind myself that that's why I'm employed. That's how I stay employed.
Yeah.
But I tell my team delegation is development. So I'm not a micromanager, or I do not try to hog the glory of me being the one that does everything. I support them to do what they do best. We have amazing revenue management experts that know all of the systems that we manage. And I would be foolish if I didn't let them do their job and empower them to do their job. When I see the industry kind of moving in the direction of the systems experts in the revenue management side of department within the discipline coming to the head, I think and again, we were kind of talking about this. Revenue management people are very black and white, and there's no gray. And in leadership, there's a lot of gray. That might actually be the name of my next book. The Color of Leadership is Gray. Now I just said it. Somebody will take
Don't say 50 Shades.
Not 50 Shades. Leadership is gray. Is the color of leadership is gray, because on any given day, you are having to lead this person in a different way that you lead this person, and you have to understand how to come to the table and meet them where they are. And so I think, there'll be a lot of opportunity for mindset change with those data-driven systems experts when they hit that role of leadership and realize it's really not as easy as I make it look.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's, when we talk about the way things were and the way things are now, that leadership of these different disciplines and how we grow them is a big part of that. And I was speaking once before with Jenna from First Hospitality, and she'd mentioned
Great, I love her.
Salespeople are now analytical, and revenue managers are learning how to be collaborative and sell their strategy and be able to be effective communicators. Marketers using all of those different pieces together, right? So everybody's kind of learning these other aspects. And so kind of going back to that, when you were earlier on in your leadership roles and how you were guiding and leading sales teams, what did it look like before? What has carried over? And what does that look like now to make them effective in today's environment?
Oh, that's a great question, Noelani. I have a saying that if you always do you can't keep doing what you've always done. Like, it's just, you just can't do that. And you constantly have to challenge yourself as to how you need to change and how you need to adapt in your role in order to be effective. And so COVID changed a lot of things. I hate saying COVID on any interview these days, but it did. It changed a lot of things. It recreated how we work in the workspace. we also lost, I'm also a little weary of talking about the talent issues in the hospitality industry or the workforce issues in the hospitality industry, but we lost a lot of industry experts, either to other other types of businesses, other verticals of industry, or they retired. And so you have um, a lot of the people who are coming in now are less experienced.
Mhm.
And sometimes these systems are very overwhelming to learn and punch, check the box on everything. So I think one of the things we realized early on at PM Hotel Group was we needed to have a digital learning platform. And we do. So if you start as a admin in one of our commercial strategy property teams, or you start as a director of sales, there's a learning path for those individuals that they go through on our system. We white labeled it the Foundry, but we have training, and we spent 2 years putting the training together, and it includes brand training and all of that. So training is training with a capital T, right? Like you've got to have that, because you are bringing people in that maybe have never worked in hospitality before. And then on the other side, I think you have to be flexible. I mean, it's hard to work from home and have a hotel job.
Yeah.
Because we're open 24/7 and we have people in our house, and you need that human interaction, right? So, but there's other things that you can be flexible about. So we, as a company, coming back into a more normalized type of work environment, we went with flexible PTO for managers. So you have to think differently. It can't be you show up and work 8 to 5 and the sales office is covered 6 days a week, and we can do a lot more virtually. And so we have to lean into that, and we have to be flexible, and not only flexible that PM Hotel Group has policies, and we do. You have to have SOPs. You have to guide people to do things accurately and efficiently and legally. So we have our SOPs, but you have to flex a little bit by property and by market, depending on who your team is. You got to be willing to do that.
Love it. Now at PM, are you first generation commercial leader? Meaning, was there a commercial leader prior to you joining? Or
Yes. PM is, wow. PM is 27, 28 years old. So, and so, yes, they had another SVP, and in fact, when she left, I received a call from a team member that works for PM that had worked with me in my past life, and she goes, "You need to come apply for this job." So a week later, at that point in time, I was doing consulting in my own business, and about a week later, I said to my husband, "I got a real job." How'd that happen? But it's been a great ride. I love it here. It's great culture, well supported, and it's a good place to be.
Well, that's interesting. So a lot of times, many organizations are somewhat newer in embracing the commercial role. Even if the mindset had been there, that actual role hadn't. And so one of the things I've been very interested to see evolve is that adoption and evolution of what commercial does to an organization. And I'd be interested to hear your take on when commercial is already established in a company. I think there's something of the optics or perception of that organization. They're already forward thinking versus one who maybe has not adopted it officially or on paper. And when you're talking about talent, any thoughts on how talent views an organization that has a structured commercial strategy in place versus one that is maybe a little bit more traditional with the different verticals?
So let me back up a minute because I might not have answered the other question correctly. So there was a sales and marketing discipline when I got here, and it was your traditional sales and sales, marketing, and revenue management.
Yeah.
And I love to tell this story. So sometimes I come up with ideas that I'm sure my team are, when I'm presenting it on a call, they're texting behind my back and saying, she's out of her mind. It's just like, whatever. But I met with Tina Meredith, who is my vice president of revenue management and heads up the revenue management side of our discipline. And I ran this past her and we brainstormed about it, but we tied it all together because we tied the incentive together.
That's wonderful.
And we made sure that everybody was incentivized on the same goals. So your VPs of sales didn't have certain goals, and your VPs of revenue management had different goals, and your marketing people, we put everybody on the same incentive plan. And one of the components of that incentive plan was forecast accuracy. And the forecast accuracy component was only on the revenue management team, even though the director of sales participates in the group, the director of meetings and events participates in the banquet and catering revenue forecast. And I said to Tina, I said, when we do this, watch how people start training each other, how people start collaborating, just like you just said, like they're lifting each other up, they're cross-training, they're helping, people that might not be the best forecasters, the data-driven experts on that, or crossing the aisle and helping train, and the collaboration got better. And I was just so proud of that moment when, I realized that it was happening. But we're salespeople, we're revenue people. If you start with the money, you're going to get their attention. And so I would say that we have done a super, super great job. I mean, I had a conversation with one of the legacy revenue management people this morning about a group forecast that she was calling my attention to. So I love that. It's just more eyes on more things, right?
That is so phenomenal. I think that's such a great note to end on. We've got a whole lot of comments I'm going to jump into, but to create an environment that fosters commercial is to create an environment that fosters collaboration, that cross training, and that's how people grow and are motivated. There's a book that Gary Chapman that did the 5 love languages. He did the 5 languages of affirmation in the workplace, and one thing that he mentioned, people rarely leave for money. They leave when they don't feel valued, where they don't feel challenged, where they don't feel like they're growing. And that environment that you just talked about is such a healthy place to be. I absolutely love that. Okay. I have got to jump over into some of these questions. Lots of people saying hello from all over. And let's see here.
You didn't tell me I was going to be taking questions.
Well,
you have to double my fee. No,
they're going to be great. They're great. These are wonderful questions. So I have got Lynn asking, as a revenue management person, we are not all black and white, though I understand why sales says that. There's actually a lot of nuance in revenue management. That's what makes it fun. Lynn is a great new generation of revenue management. I know Lynn well. So yes, Lynn, we're developing and getting out of our spreadsheets and learning how to communicate outside.
That's right.
All right. And we've got some conversations back and forth there. And let's see, Saul says, the KPIs are the only items that are black and white. The rest are all magic. Okay, we've got a lot talking about revenue management.
I know, they didn't like my comment about the black and white and the gray, did they?
Well, I'm actually revenue management in my background. We can be sensitive about that. So yeah, it's fine.
It's
yeah. All right. So let's see here. Aligned incentives are the key, Lynn came back with. That is such a huge takeaway. So let's see, and a little more conversation about so many variables attached when evaluating business. Sales needs to ask customers the right questions to build a case to revenue so they can understand the total value. I think that goes back to your point that we really need that cross training. So when revenue trains sales as to why these different pieces are important and why that helps sales learn to ask the right questions. That's what we should be doing.
My favorite part of the day when I was the director of sales was the daily business review. And that in itself has evolved a lot because now our systems tell us if it's a good piece of business in a much more analytical way than they ever did, right? Like even on the group side and the banquet and catering side, it rates and does that. But you also have to have that human conversation. And what I've seen recently with my team members and kind of going back to the training aspect is that I listened to one of our VPs of portfolio strategies at a meeting the other day, and that for us is a revenue side, revenue management side of commercial. But I listened to her present in a group of on-property people, from the director of sales to the director of catering. The GM was sitting there, sales managers, and explaining how we need you to do this so that we have this information and then we can have a more sound strategy. And she took apart several SOPs and not only explained why this is important, but what it means to the person that's looking at it next. And I was blown away. Gail Robb did an amazing job doing that. And I was just like, wow. And it was teaching me things that I didn't even know, but it goes back to the collaboration. And I've always said, when I'm sitting at the table with the revenue management team, I am not the smartest person at the table because those are some very brilliant people out there. So
yeah. That's so fun. That's great. I'm going to pull on one other thread. Is one consistent thing we've talked about today is that importance of embracing technology and how that has driven so much of the evolution in the roles and success efficiencies. However, there is such a major, I don't want to say saturation, but you get inundated with all the new technology that is out there. And
so
at the HSMAI roundtables, where it was like the CCOs ask me anything, what I heard a couple of times people say, I just don't have the time to learn it all. I can't stay on top of all of these new technologies. So any insight that you can give to others in your space or in those three disciplines, or I guess just in hospitality in general, on ways to effectively and efficiently stay on top of those technology advancements?
So one thing I would say is that my experience with the systems themselves is very limited. I mean, I'm the first one to admit that. I'm as the technology was coming into play in such a big way, I was kind of already sitting in this role, and other people were doing it. And to that point, you just got to get in there, and you've got to make yourself get in there. And in most cases, you can't break it. So, if you're just afraid to even get in and play around and learn, I just love the new benchmark platform that we have and the expansion of all the tools and resources in that. And I don't go into it basically every day, but I'm making myself go in so that I can learn more and more about it. You are correct, though. It is such a saturated market right now with lots of competition doing the same thing. And how do you navigate all of that? And I think, that's what I spend a lot of my time doing, is taking the call, deciding if it's something that PM wants to review, and then pulling the team together and letting them have a voice. And is this something that would work for our company? And training with a capital T. That's all I can say. Yeah.
Well, and that's, I think, a very important thing too. You've described your leadership as very much that kind of upside down triangle where kind of the higher up you go, just the more people you support kind of deal. And to be able to take that duty of looking at every single tech piece that's out there off the table of those who you need to be performing so that you can only bring to them that which is relevant that you see could be adopted by the company so that they're not being bogged down as well, because I mean, there's a lot out there. I think that's really great. We are actually at time. If there's
fast.
I know it went really fast. It went really fast. And we were talking for 15 minutes before too. But this was so wonderful, Lovell. And thank you guys. Thanks everyone. You stimulated a lot of really fun conversations going on in the
I can't wait to see them. I can't wait. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thanks everyone for being here. Have a good one.